All right, so if you have been tuning in and if you have been with my channel for a while, you know I work in insurance, and you know for the most part I do love my job, and it has been great career-wise, money-wise, and you know it's allowed me to have some type of freedom during the day because I do work from home, but it hasn't always been this way.
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad that they don't salute you. I need a bag.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Keela Trishawn, and I make videos on lifestyle, insurance, and mental health. I also do vlogs, day in the life in the insurance industry, day in the life with a toddler, all the things. So if that's something that interests you, go on ahead and click that subscribe button below. Be sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back, and thank you for your support. Okay, so as I kind of preface, I have been in insurance for a while, about 7 years, and I've had ups and downs, like really high ups, really low downs. And I get questions sometimes just on like how stressful is it, you know, how do you organize your day, things like that. And I've made several videos in the past, but today is going to be kind of more of like a story time. How I started in insurance, what my experience was like, and why I almost left the insurance industry. So if you are on the fence about staying in the industry or leaving the industry, if you are on the fence about even coming into the industry, I hope that this like kind of story time will give you some pointers on how I came out on the other side for the better. So if you're interested, definitely go on ahead and stay tuned. Okay, so I did a video a couple of months back kind of talking about like my journey getting to the insurance industry. So if you are interested in that video, I will link it somewhere here in the cards. But I kind of want to just go more into depth about insurance specifically. So as I said, I started insurance about 7 years ago. I was coming off of a like recruiting type position at a small company, and I didn't really like it. I always knew when I worked in automotive that I would potentially want to go into insurance just because of some of the relationships that I made, and it seemed like a job that I would be good at. It also seemed like some place where I could grow and my schedule wouldn't be as crazy as the job that I had previous. So a position came up at a company and I applied for it and I ended up getting the job. So when I started, mind you, I had a lot of work experience prior. So because I was entry level, I had already been in the workforce for several years, so I kind of knew what customer service was like and all that stuff. This was a desk adjuster position, and at this time, I was actually going into an office. I was not opposed to that. It wasn't a lot of people like really working from home at that time, unless you know, kind of had your own business or like if your company offers something like that. At this particular time, most of us for these type of jobs were still working in an office type setting. So what I had kind of talked about prior to getting this job is like what I wanted in a new role. I wanted something where I wasn't always driving around, because in my previous position, I was in the streets all day, every day, because it was like a sales type position. I was kind of burnt out on that, and I wanted something where I could just be in an office, get my work, handle it, nobody's breathing down my neck, get it done, bam, boom, go home. So that was essentially what this job was. Now, I started out in insurance as a total loss adjuster in auto. So as I explained in a couple of videos, you can start as a total loss adjuster, you can start as a liability adjuster. A lot of companies kind of put them on the same level. I feel like with the liability adjuster, it's a little more in depth, so you get to see the beginning of the claim. But as a total loss adjuster, you handle like total loss vehicles. So you handle kind of like the DMV side and lien holder side, that kind of thing. So some of my coworkers didn't particularly care for the job because it is very customer service heavy. You're dealing with people, let me just say this, any insurance job, you're dealing with people that had a bad situation and now they're coming to you for help. So that's just kind of the nature of the job. And for me, I tend to excel at it. I was doing really well, but part of the reason why I was doing really well at this position is because of my management. I felt like I had all the help that I needed right there on site. We had a trainer that was like really cool. I could come to him, ask questions. I didn't feel stupid for asking questions. And the manager that I started out with was very nice. He was very helpful, very personable, you know, jokey and stuff. And even if I made a mistake, he didn't make me feel stupid about it. So I felt like the learning environment was just that much better. Add to that, my team members were super cool, like friends outside of work type cool. So that made the job, like although it was a difficult job, just kind of learning everything, learning about insurance, learning how to set up my claims, learning how to organize my day. It was difficult, but the experience with the people around me made the experience that much easier. So with that, I ended up excelling in that role. Like I was one of the top adjusters in that particular department. My customer service scores were always good. My pending scores were good. For those who don't work in insurance, pending is just basically how many claims you have open at one time. Contrary to popular belief, the goal is to close as many claims as possible. So, I mean, I would have my moments where I would be kind of high with claims volume, but that's just going to be any adjuster. Like that happens from time to time because the workload can change from time to time. So I did this for about 2.5 years, and it got to a point where my manager at the time, who was different than the manager I started with, she was just as bomb. She was really nice, and to this day, I haven't really replaced that type of manager, but she was really cool. And she basically told me that if I wanted to move up, I would need to consider going to another department or, switching over to liability to just kind of get a couple of other disciplines under my belt so I could move into management or whatever I chose to do. That's where the homeowners department became an option. Okay, so the homeowner's position that came available was a field adjuster position. Now, ideally, at this particular company, the way it was set up is normally you would go on the inside first. So you would do a desk adjuster position in the homeowners department so you can learn the policy, learn how everything is set up, and then eventually you would go over to the field. The way it was set up here is, and it's funny because they've actually since changed the policy because of the experiences that adjusters had just going straight to the field, which I'll talk about in a second. But they changed it to where you could just interview and go straight to the field, even if you didn't have any homeowners experience. So that was what happened with me. So I applied for a position. A coworker of mine had went over a little before. So she was honest and she said, hey, it's not an easy job, but you do get a company car, you get your laptop, you get your cell phone, and you basically work from home. You do plan out your inspection. So like you're in control of your schedule and you don't have to commute, but it's not like a walk in the park. And she was still a new employee, so I can understand that when you first start, like any new role, there's going to be a learning curve. And once you get over that learning curve, typically it's smooth sailing. So I applied for the job, and my manager at the time, she had a lot of connections, so she was able to kind of talk to managers and stuff and vouch for me and all that. So I was able to secure an interview. And when I interviewed with two managers. The first manager was actually on her way out. She was retiring. And then the other manager was going to be my new manager if I got the job. So I knew in the interview, and this is why when I tell you guys about like paying attention to vibes, paying attention in the interview, making sure you ask questions, you learn a lot in this process. So a lot of the information that I give you guys is hindsight for me. We'll go into that in a second. But let's just say the manager that was retiring, she was sweet as pie. She was really nice. She was very personable and just seemed like somebody that would be cool to work with. The person that ended up being my manager gave me bitch vibes. Excuse my language, but she did. She gave me vibes that I was like, I don't know. But it was one of those things where in my mind, I'm like, this is something that I'm doing to further my career. And the idea of being able to work from home and cut out that commute was very attractive. So it was like, why not just go for it? So, they asked me different questions about my performance in my previous job and all that stuff, your typical questions. And for me, it was just kind of the way my manager was asking me the questions. Like, she kind of came off as very like condescending, narcissistic-ish, whatever. And this is something that I realized later on. I had that feeling that she might not be the best manager, but I didn't know how deep it was going to get, obviously, until I got the job. So I want to say it was like 2 interviews. So I interviewed with those 2 managers, and then I ended up interviewing with like a group manager, I believe. And like a week or so later, I ended up getting offered the position from my new manager. Now, what I can say is that even though I was excited that I got the job, I had this nagging feeling that I may not have been making the right decision going over to this department. One, I did not have any construction experience because when you go into homes and you're writing an estimate, you're expected to write a repair estimate. You have to know what the materials are. If you don't know what drywall is or what plaster is, or even, what type of paint should be used, this, that, and third, it's going to be hard for you to actually write an estimate and be able to have conversations with contractors or emergency services vendors about what needs to be done to restore a home. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, if they are giving me this job, knowing that I don't have this experience, I was very upfront. If they're giving me this job, then it must not be that hard. So fast forward, I end up starting, and I want to say like on my first day or like first couple of days, I ended up getting a call from the trainer that was going to be training me and the other gentleman that started with me. And the first question he asked me was, so why did you decide to come over to the homeowners department? And, I gave him a generic answer like, oh, looking to further my career, which was true. And, I was intrigued by the opportunity, whatever. I was actually scared as shit. But, I told him all this so I could look good. So he essentially was just like, oh, okay, I understand. And he basically said that the job is difficult. And he said that it takes about 1.5 to 2 years to be comfortable. This is what anybody will tell you if you're going over to like a homeowner's field type position. They tell you it takes about 1.5 to 2 years. In my mind, that sounded crazy because it never takes me that long to like catch on to a job. So I was like, okay, it scared me, but then at the same time, I feel like I was a little bit cocky, like, yeah, it's not gonna take me that long. Let me just say this, it's gonna take you that long. If you're brand new to that particular job, it's gonna take you 1.5 to 2 years to be comfortable. So just accept it. And if you're willing to put in the time, I feel like you will be pleasantly surprised once you get over the hump. So let's just say that I knew from training that this job was going to be intense, and then it started to make more sense why that trainer was telling me that it would take about 1.5 to 2 years to get comfortable. So when you're training for these positions, typically they're going to go over their policy. So you're going to have like a portion, usually the beginning of the class, where they're going to go over all the policies that they offer. Typically with with homeowners insurance, you're going to have like your single home policy, you're going to have your condo policy, your tenant policy, or renter's policy. Some people know what it's at. And then you're going to have a landlord policy. Within those policies, you're going to have several endorsements and, just all kind of things that are specific to each policy. So they're going to teach you how to read all of that. They're going to give you mock claim scenarios. What would you do in this case? They're going to show you how to investigate, all that stuff, right? Then if you are doing the field work, then they're going to show you how to use the estimating software. So they're going to show you how to build an estimate, and typically it's like a line-by-line estimate. So you're going to get mock claims. So these same claims that you made a coverage decision on, you'll typically use those same claims to build an estimate. So if there was, let's just say if there was a flood or something, and the bottom portion of the drywall got damaged, you're going to have to cut out so much of the drywall, replace that drywall, paint, seal, all that good stuff. So you'll learn how to do all that. You'll learn how to build it from a contractor's point of view. You'll learn like whatever extras you need to put in, all that stuff. So it's a very like intense training, and it was intimidating for me because, again, I have never built shit in my life besides maybe some IKEA furniture, and even then I had help doing it. So I felt like I was in over my head. But again, in my mind, I'm thinking, if you guys are willing to hire me to do this job with no experience, then it must not be that difficult. So you get all this training, but just with any claims job, there's no way for them to tell you every scenario while you're in training. So when you first start, you're going to have a lot of questions. Like, you're going to get claims that seem easy, and then once you get into it, then this question will come up that did not come up in training or whatever. So you're going to be asking a lot of questions. Like, you are going to be kind of dependent on your trainers, and you're going to be dependent on your coworkers, and most importantly, your manager. So that's why I say, when you are looking for jobs, especially in this industry, you want to make sure that you get good vibes from your manager, because you guys are going to be working together a lot. And that was something that I did not have in this first position. So my manager made it seem as if she was comfortable with me or anyone coming to her with questions and, letting her know if we need help. And she told us, like, you guys are brand new, please come to me, like open door policy, that kind of thing. And also she had like 30 years of experience. So she's pretty much dealt with every scenario there could be. So what I noticed initially is that she seemed to get really annoyed when me or like even my coworkers would come to her and ask questions, and it just kind of became the thing. Like, it got to a point where it was uncomfortable to come to her and ask questions, because it's like you're not friendly about it. Like, you're going to talk to me like I'm stupid, you're going to be condescending, and I just don't have time for that. None of us have time for that. So my struggle, it's not everybody's struggle, but one thing with me, my pending in the beginning when I was doing this job, when I first got on my own, used to be a little higher because I was so nervous to ask her questions, and I didn't really feel like I had anybody to lean on. The one girl that did work in the department with me, she was still new, so she was helpful for sure, but there were some things that she just didn't know. Then there are other times where you could reach out to a trainer, but my trainer was busy training other people, like the new people. So sometimes I didn't always have that resource. And then I didn't really know anybody that well, so I just felt stuck a lot of times. So it got to a point where I just became overwhelmed because customers would call me asking for a decision on this, or they would call me asking, you know, how much their check going to be, this, that, and the third. And I don't know because I don't know who to ask. So things started to get better once they started to hire other trainers, you know, that were able to assist us, that were able to go out with us, and people just kind of being able to like explain things to me in layman's terms. But it was such a toxic situation with my direct manager. So it was like, even if you did something correctly, she was scrutinizing it, or she would make you go and do just all kinds of other investigation, like things that didn't necessarily need to be done to like come to a coverage decision. She would deny payments, like just all kinds of stuff that we felt like she was doing to sabotage us. Like, it was such a weird situation. She would go on vacation and we would have an acting manager, and I started to realize that there was a problem. I thought I was just a terrible employee, but these acting managers would sometimes tell me like, oh my God, you know, good estimate, or, you know, good job on this, good job on that. They would approve things right away. But with her, she would like scrutinize everything and like deny it. And if you work in insurance, you know how frustrating it is to get a payment denied. It happens. Like, it's something that, like, if something's wrong, something's wrong. But it's frustrating when something's denied over and over again, because it can hold up like your work, you know, when the customers are coming to you asking what the status is, you know. So there was a lot of that. Then the way she would talk to us, just, when I say condescending is not the word, like it was really bad. Like, I remember being on the phone with her talking about something, and I was explaining to her because she asked me to explain to her what I was doing on a file, and she said straight up, she said, don't say another word. And then she proceeded to like berate me. And it was something that was not like a serious situation. It was literally something that I was like in the process of learning. And it just got to a point where I started to have like a really bad anxiety, even like clocking in the morning. Like, I did not want to do that job because my anxiety was like through the roof. Then I got pregnant. This is when things changed. Like, I had basically been doing this job for like a year, like not even a year and a half. It was like probably right at a year. So I was just now starting to kind of get comfortable. And that's only because I had had so many different claims, and it got to a point where I had to figure out a way to start closing these claims out, because you can't just let stuff sit open. You know, people need to get paid, and then like the job can get really overwhelming really quick if you're not on top of stuff. So I ended up having to try to seek people out to help me. And that was honestly the best thing I could have ever done, because people started to explain things to me in layman's terms. I'm like, okay, this makes sense, this makes sense. As you start closing out claims and you start kind of having the same types of claims over and over, you start to see the process, and then it becomes easier. Now you know what you're doing, but you need to kind of learn to manage your desk. So that's why I have all these tips about how to manage your desk, how to get things done, this, that, and the third. Again, I will try to link some of these videos for you if this is something that you're struggling with. But the biggest thing, honestly, was just her attitude. It got to a point where all of us, and I mean like my teammates and myself, we were all just combative with her. Like, we literally hated this lady. She was just like a tyrant. Like, I don't even know how else to explain it. It was like, she would get on us about our workload being extremely high. Meanwhile, hers was extremely high because of like her own things that she hadn't done. Like, we're asking her for help on certain things. It would take her days to get back to us. And then we would get cussed out for having it open for so long. But it's like, I asked you for help. Then when we stopped asking for help, then it was like, oh my God, you don't talk to me. Like, what? Long story short, I ended up getting pregnant. And at that time, I was like, okay, I cannot have a healthy pregnancy while I have these anxious feelings. So I got to figure out something. So I actually tried to get into another position that the company was offering. I interviewed for it and everything. However, I don't know for sure, but I really think that she put a wrench in that. I didn't get the position, and they didn't even call me to let me know I didn't get it. They didn't call me to let me know I didn't get it. They didn't call me to tell me why or anything like that. And this is the same company. So I could only chuck it up to, okay, maybe you told them that I wasn't a good fit for the job. I don't know, because I even told her that I was like applying for it. So that was that. I do think that whatever is meant for you is meant for you, and if it's not meant for you, it's not meant for you. So I didn't get that job. I tried to go on a leave like earlier than what I normally would. Like, my plan was to work until basically the end of my pregnancy, but I was like so stressed, and I'm sure it was like a bit of hormones and just like the stress of the job. That didn't quite work out for me. So I basically just counted down my days until it was time to go on maternity leave. And I just tried to be as level-headed as possible and just try to keep my dealings with her to a minimum. So I ended up going on maternity leave, and I was able to work it out to where I was able to get like more than like the 12 weeks. I was able to get, I want to say I was off for like close to 5 months. And that time away from work led me to believe that one, not only was the job stressful, but I also was kind of doing it to myself by not taking breaks. I wasn't taking days off like I should have, and I wasn't allowing myself grace. So this time off really kind of changed my mindset, because I felt like if I'm going to continue with this job, then I'm going to need to figure out something, because I can't be, you know, batshit crazy while I'm trying to raise somebody, and I don't want that to trickle down to him, to the way I treat, you know, my son. So when I went back, I was in a much better headspace. And so I just remember kind of giving myself these pep talks like, okay, you know what you're doing now, like you understand the job. It's just your manager that is, you know, terrible. So just try to keep your dealings with her to a minimum, since you now know what you're doing. You don't have to lean on her as much. This worked for a little bit, but it got to a point where she would like, I don't want to say harass, but kind of harass, like, and she would do it to all of us. It was like she would pick somebody each week to just like harass on different claims. Like, she's the type of person that, like, if she got a claim from a customer, instead of calling you to, you know, find out what the issue is, she would call you like, do you have something to tell me? Like, why are you talking to another adult like that? Just say that such and such called you, ask me for my side, and we can go from there, or read the notes, you know? So it was a lot of that. And so it got to a point where she and I were like now having verbal altercations. And what was interesting is that when I would fight back, then she would kind of back down. And it was like, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that. And for me, I don't like that. If you're gonna come at me crazy, let's keep the same energy. Don't change it when I meet you with that same energy. Like, if you wanna go toe to toe, you got me to that point, so let's go toe to toe. Don't try to back down and make it seem like I'm bullying you or anything like that, because you started it. Don't start nothing, won't be nothing. So this went on for a little bit until I just honestly couldn't take it anymore. So I chucked it up, as that experience basically made me not ever want to be in homeowner claims anymore. It also made me never want to do insurance anymore, because I chucked it up as, okay, my manager is insane. These customers are insane. And I felt like it was like me against everybody else. Like, whenever something went wrong, like it was never like something where I just simply fell into it, which a lot of times, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm perfect or anything, but a lot of times the situations that I was getting chewed out for were like out of my control. So it's always like, oh, you should have did this, you should have did that. And it's like, okay, well, I did literally everything I could. So I ended up getting another position at the company that I was at when I first started doing the day in the life insurance vlogs. Just something from home. And I honestly thought like maybe I should just go back to automotive. Like, maybe I should just go back to auto insurance, because this homeowner shit ain't working. And I did that for a little bit. And I told you guys, I'm not going to recap that story, but I kind of told you guys where they had me effed up. And lo and behold, this position came about at this current company. And I was really on the fence because of my previous experience. But truth be told, doing homeowner claims and doing the job that I do, the pay is a little better than the desk adjuster position, because you're required to do more. And, you know, I did honestly like the idea of having the company car and being able to go out into the field, not driving all day, but just setting my schedule up to where I can get out the house, I can get some fresh air, I can meet with the customers, and then I can come back home and write my estimates and, you know, do my job. And because I know what I'm doing now, I felt like I could excel in this job like a lot more than what I did previously. Also, I got really good vibes when I interviewed with this current company. Like, they seemed like they legitimately cared about the employee's well-being, the employee's mental health, as much as they cared about the customer's well-being. For me, that's big, because I feel like companies that only care about the customer and just kind of treat their employees like shit, those companies, to me, like, they experience a lot of turnover, because it's like, yes, the customer is important, but you want me to take care of your customer. You want me to be nice. You want me to, you know, give it my all. I'm not going to do that if you're not taking care of me. You know, that's like, you take care of me, I'm going to take care of you. So the experience so far with this new company is just a complete 360, like complete 360. And a lot of it is simply because of the environment. Like, I still have questions because I'm new, not necessarily on the process, but just how this company wants me to do the process. Like, some companies say you don't need to get approval on this, but other companies want you to get approval. So that's kind of like where my questions come in at. but I've never been made to feel stupid for asking questions. They have it set up to where there's like a trainer that kind of like reaches out to you, and they're very involved in like your development. It's like they set you up for success, whereas before I felt like I was set up for failure. So what I will say is that I think what brought me back to just kind of giving another try was, one, if I'm going to be honest, the money. I have been working for a long time and I haven't always asked for my worth, and just like knowing what I know now, I know that like with the skill set that I have, like they need this skill set, because not a lot of people unfortunately are willing to do it, because a lot of companies do treat their employees like crap, you know? So it's really important. I feel like in any industry, but for me, really in the insurance industry, it's important to kind of look at where you're going to work, look at who you're working for, and just kind of do your research on the company. Because at the end of the day, in this type of job, like you're making decisions that could determine whether someone gets paid or whether they don't get paid. You can make a decision that could determine whether you get fired or not fired. And I think it's important because you deal with like you deal with large dollar amounts, especially in the homeowner department. And there's so many different variables. Like every one claim, or I'm sorry, no two claims are the same, should I say? There are so many different variables on different things, and a lot of times you're just making the best decision that you can based on what you know. But if you're a newer adjuster, whether you're new to the industry or new to a company, you need to be able to reach out to people. You need to have online resources that you can go to in case somebody isn't around in that moment and you need to make a quick decision. It's just a lot that goes into it. And for me, having worked for 3 different insurance carriers, I would say that this company that I'm working for currently does it the way that it should be done, you know? And I think a lot of it is just basically through feedback. They do a really good job of listening to their employees to determine like, okay, we need to change this, we need to fix this, increase this, decrease that, that kind of thing. So find you a company that's willing to listen to their employees. Also, if I'm just going to be honest, as a Black woman, I do feel like I have the potential to make really, really good money in this industry, specifically in the homeowners department, just because of the complexity of the claims that you get, the complexity of the policy and the coverage decisions. I'm not saying that you can't make money in auto, because you absolutely can. But what I see is that in homeowners, it seems like you can kind of do it a little bit quicker. And this is just my experience. So if anybody has a different experience, completely understand. But my experience is that I feel like I've been able to make way more quicker in homeowners than I was in auto. Also, just being a Black woman, I feel like it's nice for the customers that I'm helping. Like, you know, if I'm helping fellow African Americans, it's nice when they see me walk up and it's just somebody that looks like them, you know? So I think this is an industry for people of color where you can make a decent amount of money, you can make a career out of it, and it's something that like looks really good on your resume. And the skills that you learn are honestly just they're priceless. I'm gonna just say that. So basically the reason why I decided to stay were because of those reasons. And I also realized that my experience was not because I didn't like the job, and it wasn't because I couldn't do the job. Once I knew how to do the job, it wasn't that, it was the environment. And I know that for some people, that is a big thing. If your environment is not right, then you're not gonna excel. So that's why you have people that are getting depressed at work and, you know, hate Sundays and all that stuff. I think there is a healthy level of, you know, Sunday blues, like where you're just like, crap, it's Monday, I gotta get back to work. But if you like legitimately hate your job or you're crying because you have to go back to work, then you really have to make a change. So in closing, if you are thinking about going into insurance, it is a tough job. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not gonna hold you. It is a tough job, and it is something that is going to take you some time to like learn and be comfortable in your decision making, be comfortable in like having the conversations with customers, whether good or bad. It's just one of those positions. But I do feel like if you stick with it, no matter what department you're in, whether you're in homeowners, auto, workers' comp, medical, whatever, if you stick with it, I do think that it's a career that could be lucrative for you, and there are a lot of different places that you can go. Okay, so lastly, now I've mentioned this a couple of times. I put out a poll at the end of last year, and also I've mentioned it in some videos, but I do want to start doing one-on-one coaching, but I also want to kind of create like a community for us insurance adjusters. I don't know what the name is going to be just yet, but If you have any interest, definitely send me an email. I'm going to put it down here at the bottom of the screen, but it's also going to be in my description box. It's keelatbusiness@gmail.com. So this is going to be for anybody that works in insurance, whether you be an adjuster, whether you be in SIU, if you are in bodily injury, whatever. But just anybody that, you know, is working 9 to 5 and is just looking for a networking opportunity. If you have like insurance questions, like I kind of want to gauge interest before I start offering like one-on-one services for insurance adjusters. So I kind of want to create like a community, almost like a book club type community, if you will. So if you're interested in something like that, I kind of want to do it like once a week, and it'll probably start sometime in March or April. So send me an email and I can kind of give you some more information on kind of like my idea. And then I could also send out emails once I have it all figured out and, you know, like figure out how I'm going to do it. So I'm thinking it's going to be like a Zoom thing that we do once a week. But yeah, if that's something that interests you, please send me a message and I will put you on the list. Now, if you enjoyed this video, definitely give me a thumbs up. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you have not already subscribed, please go on ahead and click on that subscribe button below. Be sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. And with that being said, you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.
You mad that they don't salute you. I need a bag, size is super. They turned your bag, it's like I never knew you. Leader.